Yay!
everybody! Yay! Welcome everybody to this extraordinary conversation. I am so thrilled and deeply, deeply, deeply honored. And I've prepared like a little dance for you, Dane.
Oh,
After
I cannot wait.
11,168 somersaults and a little bit
Uh-huh.
of, I'm very excited to welcome you to
Thank
this
you. And this
call.
is not going to be extraordinary. How fucking boring is that? Like ordinary but extra. No, it's going to be fucking miraculous.
That.
There you go. All right. That may be a little translation issue there, but I'm just saying. Yeah. Let's go.
Extraordinary So 2024. What if you were no longer at the effect of the world? Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on here. And yes, what if you didn't have to be at the effect of the world?
Yeah. Okay. Zoom is over. Go live it. Um, so it's an interesting thing because we'll bring up a topic, that's this wonderful, for example. And, people then go into computing and thinking. And what you're doing in that is you're making yourself the effect of the world. And the thing about it is, we've all been taught to think our way through everything, to figure it out. And if you figure it out right, everything will work. And unfortunately, it just keeps us in figuring it out. But what if we, as the beings we are, have choices that are almost unfathomable? And I say almost because there are moments in our lives where we have been that. Just think of one moment in your life where you had a sense of everything working, everything being ease, and where everything just felt great. And that's when you're truly being you beyond the effect of this world we live in, this reality. And the interesting part is we think that we need to fight against this reality. I need to fight against where I'm being stupid. I need to fight against where I'm being limited. I need to fight against where, but that's you again doing this reality. What if we could end the fight and embrace the kind, gentle, potent nature of our being just because we could, because we can, because we can, just because we can. And we've been acting like we can't. But what if all this stuff we've been doing and all the, I'm going to kill this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to, what if we can just choose something that would make us happy just because we can? And by the way, everything that doesn't allow you to know that you can, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, boys, povets, bases, creations, and beyonds. Now, guaranteed some of you are watching this and you're like, what did you just say? Exactly. It's part of what allows you to know that you can. It's the access consciousness clearing statement. And it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is using that thing.
Wow. And here's the thing, Dane, like one of the things that, like, there always is something in this world to be kind of like worried about, right? Like the fires or the wars and like structures falling apart, government going crazy. And you came up with this amazing possibility called being you changing the world. And can you say a little bit about what is it to be in this reality, to live in this world, and still have that and be that difference that you invite us to?
Well, it's interesting. It was the Buddha that said, be in the world, but not of it. Buddha, Gandhi, pretty much everybody who's had anything cool going on has said basically a version of be in the world, not of it. And so, see, it's interesting because I'm going to acknowledge this about us. We all know something different. We all have a level of knowing that we can't fathom because it goes so far beyond anything we can think. And that idea of be in the world but not of the world is based on the awareness that your living, breathing life that you are creating can be different, but we then try to disconnect from the world, like one of the common things is we'll disconnect from money, for example, as though money is the source of the problems, as though rich people are the reason for the evil in the world. But what if you had money, would you be that way, or would you be a contribution to more people? Can you contribute more to people with money, or with when you have more money, or when you have less? Well, the truth is you're contributing in the way that you're willing to contribute, but having money can make it easier in certain ways. But so part of what people try to do is disconnect from the world as a way of having them, and disconnect from wonderful things like, I don't know, ice cream. Like, oh, this is bad. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to prove I'm on a spiritual journey by never letting anything that tastes good pass these lips. There I am. And the idea is, based on this old religious spiritual idea that if you suffer here in the afterlife, then you will. This is bizarre to me, okay? The fundamental idea that if you suffer here in your next lifetime or in the afterlife, you will have proved that you're a good person and not a bad person. Wait a minute. I'm proving I'm a good person by suffering, by being unhappy, by not feeling good every day. That is somehow going to make me have a better afterlife? What? It's going to make what? How? Who invented that idea? If there is, and oh my goodness, sorry, you pulled the pin. Now I'm going to explode all over the place. There's so much to say about that, because what we're doing is most of us listening to, in fact, I'd say all of us listening to this or watching this are always trying to be better people. And we think somehow we have bought the fundamental lie that if I judge me, I'll become a better person. If I suffer more, it proves I'm not a bad person. If I'm happy and I have more ease than other people, then I must be doing something wrong and I'm a bad person. These are the lies that are sticking us. And so the idea of being you, changing the world, is finally getting in touch with those things that you choose, those people, the stuff, the spaces, every experience that makes you just feel good about you in the world. It's not rocket science. And, we have there's a tool that I love to give people that we have from Access Consciousness, which is what's true for you always makes you lighter. A lie for you always makes you heavier. And when you're being the effect of the world, is that what's true for you, or is it a lie that you're buying and perpetrating so you can try to change the world and make it greater? The way you change the world and make it greater is by being the lightness, the happiness, the joy, the ease, the difference that you are, and not letting anybody drag you down into the cesspool. And that's really what being you, changing the world is. On one of the threads that I'm in with these amazing creatures who dive into this symphony of possibilities energy, because it's really an energetic way of being in the world that allows you to know that you can contribute to people, that there's this beautiful energy of being alive available. And this beautiful woman posted in this thread about how when she's taught thousands of teenagers how to sing, and she is such a beautiful creature. She's like this she's like this friggin' angel. And she had a student many years ago who had to work his ass off to get into a performing college, and she said it was one of the most proud days of my life when he went. So yesterday, so fast forward 15 years, this guy is a teacher and he teaches inner city kids music. And when I say inner city, I'm talking the ghetto of the ghetto. Okay. And he invited her to come and help him teach them. And his real secret target and hers was to show them the beauty that they are. So she walks in and it was like being hit with a wall. Imagine teenagers. Okay, now I grew up with this in my childhood, and I tapped into that energy again. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that so dynamically, where they have so much apathy and apparently so much anger and so much hate and so much unwillingness to receive. And the idea that anything that's going to be directed at them is going to be harsh and cruel. And so they were being like, like this with her. And she's like, it was one of the toughest things in the world to just be there and keep inviting them, even though they acted like they weren't interested. Some of them are just mean. And she said, she said after you could feel the walls melting because she didn't put up any walls and barriers. And she said after her time, she said, sorry, that my ADHD is going crazy because I want to convey all of this. And really, there's no way to other than sharing with you one of the most beautiful energies that you could imagine. But she said these kids, when they started singing, they had the most beautiful voices. She said you could see them melt. You could see these beings behind the eyes where all of the things that they had created as their barrier against the world. And when you create the barrier against the world is in charge and you're not. You're not there. You're always defending against. And that's what these kids were doing. And we could all imagine that, right? We can all understand why. There is definitely an appropriateness if that's all you have available as a way of preserving your being. And most people are functioning from trying to preserve their beings walking through this world. And as she was there, being this symphony of possibilities that she is, okay, they started melting. And she went, all of them melted. And to hear them sing, she said when they let their voices be there, because most of these kids had never allowed themselves to have a voice. Most of them didn't have parents or their parents are in prison. And all they've gotten is harshness. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Even if you didn't grow up in those conditions, you can relate to the world around us seeming so harsh, seeming as though your voice has no value, seeming as though your being has no value. So all you can do is try to slot yourself in to one of the available boxes and cut off all the parts of you that don't match to try to get it right enough to survive another day. And this is where so many people are living. And what she showed these kids by being her, by being something different, was something totally different. And she said, she said, not only was their gratitude one of the most genuine things, she said, every single one of them came up to her and expressed gratitude with such eloquence that she has never had that from highly educated people who know how to choose their words, quote unquote. She said the energy that they were being, it's like these kids got set free and every single one of them received it. Okay, that right there is being you changing the world. But that right there is not giving into the story someone is presenting to you. And the difficulty is we give into the stories people present, we make that real because everybody is, but there is such a beautiful energy underneath that story that is us. And that is what we can choose to be and live. And is it easy? No. Do you think it was easy for her to feel like she was totally hated by these kids? Because that's how they reject everyone. And if you can't get through that wall and barrier, you are not strong enough to be coming into my world because these kids have a strength. And you know what? All of us do. And so we can probably relate dynamically to having so much meanness and judgment that we didn't think had to exist. But you know what? Underneath it and through it, there is the choice for choosing us and choosing to be something different that makes the world greater, ours and everybody else's, just by being us.
Wow. Ah, I don't know if I have shared this before with you, but Dane, when I first found Access 10 years ago, yeah, I'll cut the story, but depression, clinical depression, the one with where you take pills. I found Access and someone told me that there's a book called Being You, Changing the World. And I thought it was one of the most insulting things that I've ever seen on the cover of a book. Like being you, changing the world,
You
being
were like,
me. Exactly. Like, I don't want to fucking change the world. I want to be like not suicidal and I want to be. And then I saw you somewhere on YouTube doing that thing with your hands and being you, working with someone. And that freaking changed my world. And that I know has changed the worlds of so many people all around the world. So thank you. Thank you on behalf of those millions of people. I'm in Dubai right now and I end up meeting people who have so much gratitude for access consciousness, for you, and everything that these tools invite the world constantly all the time. So freak, like, thank you so very much for everything.
Thank you. And thank you for that story. The, uh, and thank you for receiving it. See, this is the other element that we don't recognize that actually is a gift of us is the willingness to receive a possibility. See, you could have looked at that and doubled down on the fuck you point of view, because we're just like these kids. We say fuck you to the very thing that is the world that we know is possible because, well, there's a lot of becauses, but one of the primary ones being that we've probably tried to embrace it before and felt like we had it taken away or hated away, and to be disappointed again seems sometimes like more pain than we can bear, and the willingness to receive a different possibility is a gift. And whatever that possibility is that presents itself, and also recognize that if there's something you really want to fight against, if there's something you hate or something you love, there's probably something there for you. Your willingness to receive it open the door. You could have easily rejected it. I know, knowing you, that's not really who you are. You don't like to reject. You want to like give the world a big hug. And yet I want to acknowledge it's a choice we all have. And unfortunately, it's a choice we make a lot of times as a way of maintaining survival that unfortunately keeps us from the thrival and the thriving we're capable of.
Ah, so Dane, for the people that are experiencing, say, turmoil right now, difficulty with something, and they may be new to access consciousness, maybe listening to you for the first time.
Hi.
Hello. Where can they start?
Well, number one, notice if just being here has changed something for you. Because the greatest place to start from, there's so many, but one of the most fundamental from my point of view is to start listening to that inner voice that we have. That's not really a voice, but it's this inner knowing. It's a sense of, does this make me lighter? Does this make me heavier? Because what's true for you and something for you to explore more and get more involved in will always make you lighter. If it makes you heavy, and people go, what's light and heavy? And I'm like, wow, we live in a world where what children know is not even available to us as adults, which is interesting. But that is a story for another time. We can change that to get back to that awareness and that childlike wonder of the world. But lightness is like you hear something or you're in the presence of something, like you hear that story and you kind of melt. Your world gets more like, okay, I don't have to, I'm not so separate. Something just got more beautiful. Or light is just like, wow, that feels good. Or light is where you go, oh, that feels great. Like light is kind of like when you're hanging out with a good friend who doesn't judge you, somebody who knows all your dirty secrets and doesn't judge you for them. Okay, that's light. Heavy is, well, pretty much everything else you see in this world. Like think of any politician. There you go. That's heavy. You're welcome. Okay. Pocket pot. So where to start is with the acknowledgement that we know, and then what else could I open up to receiving that would change all of this that's going on for me? And then and notice that's a question. So the other element is to start questioning rather than judging. Because you can judge, oh, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, but then you get that heaviness I'm talking about. And all of us are very familiar with it. There's not one of us that doesn't know what it's like to feel like everything is getting worse. That's the heavy I'm talking about. Okay, and what did I say? Heavy is always a lie. So the work and the courage and the vulnerability comes in in the willingness to, against all odds and against all evidence that we are buying as real, choose something different, anything different. And I would say different would be notice where you're going down into the heavy rabbit hole and go, wait, stop. What else can I choose? Asking a question, what else is possible here? What would it take to change this? What would it actually take? What one choice can I make right now to be happy instead of crappy? You know, it's not rocket science, but it does require us to be willing to go down a different path of exploration from a space of eventually starting to embrace more and more what is true for me, because your life works when you're living what's true for you, when you're feel duty bound to do it the way everybody else does, to go down into the trauma and the drama and the pain and suffering that people believe is so necessary. That's when it feels like things are spiraling out of control into heaviness. And so question rather than judgment, acknowledge that you know, and that there is a still small voice within that is trying to speak to you to get you to what you're asking for. And it doesn't match what anybody else thinks about the world. It's a voice that is uniquely yours. Please start nurturing it rather than continuously trying to kill it so you can match what's expected of you. Now, we have so many more deeper explorations and and so many tools in access consciousness that are about specifically changing these things, and we can change specific things very dynamically and very quickly. And that's the other thing to know, is change actually is available. Now, I truly don't care whether you do access or not, but you walking around, I would like you to find whatever it is for you that allows you to walk around the world with your head up, held up high, with a smile on your face and a warmth and an open heart, because that changes all of us. That's what that lady did that I spoke about. She was just her. There was no special, she wasn't like, I'm going to voodoo, I'm going to do this. She was like, I'm here. You know what? You can hate me if you need to, and that is okay. You're not wrong. But I'm here. And I want you to know you're here and you can be here too. That changes our world. And I want to give one other tool that is really helpful, especially when you go into all the stress and stuff. And, I realize with some of the things I'm talking about, it might seem like magic. And the thing is, you are the magic. And I don't say that dismissively or significantly. It's just who we are. And but when you're got a lot of stuff going on, ask yourself, is this mine? How much of this is my awareness of everybody else? How much of this is my desire to try to heal all the people in the world and make the world a better place by somehow taking it on? And I want to let you all know, you taking it on, you can't take on 8 billion people's pain and suffering. You can't even take on the pain and suffering of your family and change it. The only thing that changes it for any of us is our choice. And you taking on their suffering doesn't make them suffer less. You taking on their suffering makes you suffer more, which goes back to the very beginning of our conversation of we're suffering to try to prove we're good people instead of bad people. But what if we could let that fundamental lie go, that our suffering makes us greater, and recognize that our lightness and our lack of suffering is what sets us in the world free.
Ooh.
Our joy, joy to the world. You know that.
And you spoke about magic. And one of the most magical things that I have experienced and I get to play with and have fun with is the universe of the symphony of possibilities. Ha! Can you say something about the Symphony of Possibilities?
Oh, yes. Well, it's kind of like trying to put as few words as possible, but give somebody an awareness that there's this universe. This universe is filled with possibilities and we can access it. And it's about sort of so if you look at what the lady did the other day with those kids, she was being that. Now, is that her being something called, I am going to be SOP to, like, did she put on her SOP cape, and she's like, SOP, SOP on the back, I'm doing SOP. No, it's her being. But that's what actually the Symphony of Possibilities is it's our recognition that the universe truly is a symphony, meaning every single element can be a contribution if we'll allow it to. Every single thing that has ever occurred for us, even the crappy stuff, and sometimes especially the crappy stuff, can be a contribution to us having us, but can be a contribution to us actually creating our lives rather than suffering our lives. And then it also brings in this element of energetic work, if you will, that lets us know that we are a contribution to other people and that we can tap into all kinds of things. Like, think about when, two things. One is, how many of you, like, usually about like somewhere between 2:30 and 4 in the morning, you'll wake up sometimes and nobody else is awake. And it's like, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I think a lot of people do, where you start pondering possibilities and you're like, oh, and you see things through a different lens. It's like the normal filters of your 5 p.m. point of view about it are not there, and you play with it. Well, when you were a little kid, before people and before school and becoming a teenager and all that sort of stuff, when you were a little kid, didn't you do that too? And didn't you do that with a lot of things? And a lot of you can't even remember, but think back to one time when you were a little kid where you were just playing because it was so much fun. And notice the corollary between that and waking up in the early morning hours or whenever you do it, pondering the same thing. Well, the reason we go to that is because that's us. And what we're doing is we're energetically playing, because in those early morning hours before we're in our day and all the structure and stuff, we tap into what we actually are. Now, here's the thing, a lot of times then we get disappointed later in the day when it hasn't all changed, because didn't I just change it? Well, what you start to recognize and start to access and be able to access, no pun and pun intended, simultaneously, what you start to be able to access is the awareness of how you being that can literally interact with things in your world to make them different and greater and more miraculous. Because what we've been doing to live a normal life is kill our miraculousness to such a degree that many people are like you were when you saw the cover of the book. Fuck you. I'll talk about miraculousness, and anything that you have used a huge amount of energy against that is a possibility for you, you will initially resist it when you hear about it, because a long time ago, for whatever reason, you either decided it couldn't happen, or one of the bigger things is you created something miraculous and weren't acknowledged for it, or worse yet, were made wrong for it. And you're used to being the source of the problem. The idea that you're a miracle, the idea that you are miraculous, that you have miraculous capacities, is something that we fight against with so much energy that if I mention it, you're like, oh, you're crazy, you weirdo, you freak. All the things that you were told, you will say to me, because that point in your life, and what you've been avoiding has so much energy, and I get it. And I'm like that lady yesterday. I'm like, it's okay. I used to do it too. I get it. You're not wrong. And whatever you've been dealing with, especially lately, there's been so much more intensity for most people lately. You're not wrong. Wherever you feel like you've gone backwards in the last year or months, or you're not wrong. And I want to say one other thing. You're not going backwards. It's just that going forward into an undefined reality, an undefined universe, has no definition. So, because it doesn't match the structure, we think it must be wrong. But you are part of the symphony of possibilities of the universe. Or maybe let me ask you differently. Are you part of the symphony of possibilities of the universe? And a lot of you watching are like, yeah, but I don't understand it. Well, I don't understand it. I can barely put words to it. But if you can acknowledge that about you, even if it's not today where you go, hell yeah, I'm going to be that. Hopefully one day in the near future, you'll go, you know what? That friggin' weirdo, I haven't been able to get that out of my mind. Fucking dragon guy, whoever the fuck he was. Um, there's something there speaking to me because you can't see, we live in a world where people try to tell a better lie to get control over you, to get you to buy something, to get you to buy into something. And so most of this world, most of the people are trying to find out the right lie to tell. But there's a revolution occurring, as far as I can tell, where people are actually starting to value authenticity. Well, what is that? That's your being. That's you being. The reason people are starting to value authenticity is because people are starting to value being. And those of us that desire it more than almost anything else are actually starting to see that the choices we're making in that direction are actually paying off in ways that this reality would value even. So what else is possible now for all of us? And by the way, if you just blanked out right now, that's because we got somewhere. Where? Define it. Well, it's a space beyond your mind's ability to control. And that's what you used to be. Well, that's what you are. That's what used to not stop when you were a little kid. And that's what you're not stopping when you wake up and ponder possibilities. Well, what if that pondering could lead to actualizing your life showing up differently in the way that you would really like it to?
Ah, and all of that, everything that you said, and so much more. You're kicking off the year with the first Symphony of Possibilities in Dubai.
Yay! Talk
Hey!
about a city that needs some symphony of possibilities. I love it because people around the world are like, Dubai, it's like the center of our future and everything works in Dubai. And I'm like, "Yeah, it could work even better. Why not? What else is possible?"
For those of you that are watching, Dane's coming to Dubai, the 31st of January to the 3rd of February. So the Symphony of Possibilities is a class that has a prerequisite, which is the opening of the symphony, which we will have the amazing Mr. Anthony Mattis facilitating that. I just don't know how he gets words to put what the symphony energy is so differently and makes it so available. So those of you that are listening, the 31st of January, opening of Symphony at the beautiful Taj Exotica at the Palm in Dubai. I love that property, by the way. And first, second, third Symphony of Possibilities with Dain. And
Yay.
available online worldwide for
And
anyone.
I want to say something about the opening of the symphony because, well, the Symphony of Possibilities, the opening of the symphony, but the opening of the symphony is, it's like if anything that we've spoken about on this Zoom speaks to you, please consider doing that. because see, the how do you explain something? How do you explain the unexplainable? Number one. Well, Anthony does a great job of putting into words the the thing that this is. And you're like, what is it? Tell me what it is. I'm like, yeah, I would love to define it for you. Define a miracle, like define magic, like actual magic, not like that, tricks where you pull birds out of your butt or whatever they do. Um, how do you define? I asked for something and it showed up way faster and way greater than I thought. How do you define? I was there with a group of kids and they were all different after 2 hours. You can't, but you can be it. And that's really what all of this is about. And the Symphony of Possibilities is based on this energetic work that I've been doing for 25 years called ESB, which also energetic synthesis of being. And once again, I just had to put some name to it so we could talk about it. But this occurred when I was working on the founder of Access, Gary Douglas, 25 years ago. I'd done an Access class and been having bar sessions that literally saved my life. But I had no idea, and I had no idea I had any miraculous capacities. I mean, literally, like when I say that, I am not kidding. Okay. I mean, I felt like I was the redheaded stepchild of every energetic thing, every chiropractic thing, every healing thing, every money thing. Like, I felt like I was a redheaded stepchild of everything. And for those of you translating, the redheaded stepchild is the one nobody likes, that's not part of anything. And they're always the one that doesn't get it. That was me. And I am not kidding. So here I am thinking I'm just an idiot with everything I touch, that I am like basically the biggest idiot I've ever met. That was my point of view of me at the time. And I wanted to be that person that helped people and contributed to people. Like I would have done anything, including what most of you do, take away their pain. I was doing that too. And then Gary Douglas walks into my office. He says, look, don't do your technique. He said, ask my body what it wants. You'll know what to do. He was the first person in my life that ever acknowledged to me that I would know. Well, there was a universe that opened up. It's like those movies where you see, the young wizard is having their first experience, not their first, but where it all falls together, where like things are just so different, like color, whatever. It wasn't even that. It was just everything was different. Everything seemed possible for the first time in my life. And I'm working on this person and I'm working on him and I'm not even touching him during half of the session. I have never done that before. Plus, I had tried doing energy work before and I sucked. That was another redheaded stepchild element in my life. And so I avoided all the energy stuff, as you would. If you think you suck at something, why would you not avoid it? So, by the way, if you're out there and you're like, I suck at this, trust me, I know. And that's why we present it from the place of we know what it's like to think this is weird. We know what it's like to think you don't get it. We know what it's like when we talk about miracles and you think you're the only one who doesn't get it. Because Anthony and I both lived our entire lives from a place of everybody else is miraculous but me. I'm an idiot. I suck. Can I do something for you? It won't be very good, but I would love to try. Basically, both of us had that as our point of view. And in this session with Gary, there was such a space of beauty that I was out of wrongness for the whole thing. I didn't even think about being wrong for an hour of my life. It was amazing. It was a happy hour. Oh my God. You should have at least one happy hour every 30 years or whatever it is. Something like there's a formula somewhere anyway. And with whatever that showed me, I could no longer continue to deny that miracles existed, number one, because that's what I always wanted from the time I was a kid, was like miraculous everything for all of us. And by the time I got to 30 years old, I had finally, I'd given up hope that that was ever going to occur, even with all the spiritual, energetic stuff that I had been practicing. I could no longer deny that miracles existed. And then the one other thing, I could no longer deny that I was part of it and that the miracle wasn't about me having to be perfect. It was about me letting it show up no matter how imperfect I thought I was and just allowing it to be there. And that's what the symphony of possibilities is. That's what the opening of the symphony, if I can put one, one phrase or description to it, it's that and so much more, because
And so
that is just the beginning.
indeed. What a banger of a bio. I was just looking at if everything you just said, you attend this class and this is what's available, but that literally is what is. And again, like so much gratitude for having had made this so available to people, so available to people like me and so many others who can now not forget what's available and possible.
It's, it's just making me cry the whole time. That, that, that's, thank you. I would have it no other way. I want us all to know how great we truly are. Beyond the bullshit stories we have been telling ourselves and the lies. Because remember, when you're, what's a lie always makes you heavy. A lie always contracts you. I would like us all to know how great we are beyond the bullshit lies, beyond the bullshit stories we've been telling ourselves and diminishing ourselves with, as though us doing that somehow makes the world greater. Okay, that story, its time has come. Okay, we recognize that that story, that you diminishing you and hating you and judging you and not seeing you as a miracle, that story that makes the world greater and that that's necessary anymore, we destroy and uncreate and let that shit go now. Times a gazillion, right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povets, bases, creations, and beyonds. Here's the thing, and I want to, this has been a running theme through here, and I want to say it in words. If I tell you you're a miracle, there's a certain element of that that might light you up because what's true lights you up. And then there's a lot of that that of necessity seems to get rejected because of the world we live in and the lives we live and not desiring to be arrogant and all the stuff. But if I can create a space in which even carrying everything that you have thought you were that's not miraculous, all of your shit, all of your baggage, all of your defense, just like those kids. And if I can be a space and also be an awareness of the miracle, like she was with those kids, and you get to that awareness yourself, even for a moment, that changes your world. I'd like a lot more of that and a lot more of us, all of us, you included. If you're watching or listening to this, even if it's 100 years from now, I would like all of us to have access to that and to be willing to at least explore it for a little bit to see where it leads.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes. Yes.
Ah, thank you so much, my friend, once again. And I don't have words at the moment. It's just, I think, thank you. And see you soon in Dubai. And you can come see
Yay.
him too. Him. You're here for me. Yeah.
And you can join online too.
Yes.
Yay.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Thank you, Datu. You are one of these miracles I'm talking about. And to have, and also there's a lot of people behind the scenes on the Zoom, like these beautiful people who make sure this happens, who are contributing to this getting into people's worlds. These beautiful translators who like they contribute so much because they recognize the gift that it is. I'm I'm having um I wonder if I'll ever again talk without crying, but there's so much gratitude because each of you, each of us is this contribution to this being in people's worlds. And I don't say that lightly. I say it with lightness, but I don't say it as just words to be dismissed. I say it in the hopes that we will start to acknowledge that it has nothing to do with anything that we think, but us being here and desiring the things we do and desiring to contribute to the things that we do and having a sense of being willing to seek something different that involves and includes and contributes to all of us is the gift the world requires and is the gift that our being is. And it's what we're here to be. And we have the choice now more than ever. So I thank you again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hugs and kisses and dragon dances and cheering you on for more of this, and everyone that's watching 2025. Here we go. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's kick this year's ass and have way too much fun.